Every Halloween, millions of us turn on the same thing. Movies, specials, news segments, meant to make us laugh or scream. But sometimes, what goes out over the airwaves doesn't come back. Across the decades, 6 broadcasts aired once on Halloween night and were never shown again. Some vanished by network order, some were pulled mid-transmission, and some no one remembers recording at all. From lost news footage to live TV gone wrong, these are the moments when the line between entertainment and reality disappeared and the air itself turned haunted. Lock your doors, put on your headphones, because after this video, you'll never watch Halloween the same way again. The emergency broadcast that wasn't a test. It was Halloween night, 1987. The weather across southern Texas was clear, no storms, no interference, perfect reception. At 10:32 p.m., Channel 9 in San Antonio cut to commercial during its late-night movie, a rerun of The Blob. And then the screen went black. What appeared next looked like a state emergency broadcast test, the classic color bars, a tone humming low and steady. The words "Emergency Alert" flashed across the top, but there was no voiceover, no explanation, only the tone. After 20 seconds, the tone began to change, slower, deeper, pulsing like a heartbeat. Then came voices, not one but several, layered, whispering over each other in what sounded like reversed English. Viewers later described it as a crowd whispering through glass. The broadcast lasted 3 minutes and 24 seconds before the regular program returned mid-scene. No station ID, no apology, just the movie, playing as if nothing had happened. Within an hour, hundreds of calls flooded the local news desk. Some claimed the voices were speaking Spanish, others said Latin. A technician from the station, interviewed the next morning, said only one thing made sense in the recording, a single phrase repeated twice: "Do not be afraid." The FCC launched an investigation. They found no evidence of signal hijacking, no trace of transmission origin. The EBS, Emergency Broadcast System, hadn't been activated anywhere in the region. And yet, the broadcast log showed a full 3-minute interruption from an unknown input channel, one that didn't exist in their routing system. Weeks later, engineers at a neighboring station reviewed their backup feed, which had also recorded the interruption. The footage was distorted, the audio scrambled, but under the static, one technician claimed to hear something mechanical, a rhythmic ticking, like film running through a projector. Others swore they heard breathing. Then the file corrupted. Every attempt to restore it caused the system to freeze. When the engineers transferred the tape to a secondary drive, the timestamps jumped from 10:32 in straight to 10:35:24, exactly the duration of the interruption. For weeks, rumors spread through San Antonio. Religious groups called it a warning from God. Pirate radio enthusiasts claimed it was a test broadcast from an illegal numbers station. But no one could explain why it only aired on a single channel and why neighboring towns received nothing but static. By mid-November, Channel 9 replaced its entire transmission hardware. The FCC quietly closed the case, citing possible internal malfunction, but the technician who'd first heard the phrase quit soon after. He told a reporter, "It wasn't a malfunction. It was a message, but it wasn't meant for us." The strangest detail came months later, when a viewer mailed a VHS recording of the event to the station. She'd taped the late-night movie that night. The tape contained the interruption, but not as it had aired. The tone was gone. Instead, there was silence. And just before the movie resumed, a faint voice whispered, "Signal received." No one has been able to replicate the footage. The tape degraded and disintegrated before analysis could finish. Today, the official story remains unknown interference. Unofficially, it's known among engineers as the San Antonio incident, the broadcast that started without permission and ended when someone or something answered back. But that same year, on the other side of the country, another Halloween broadcast went wrong, and this time, the cameras were live. The WNUF Halloween special, the broadcast that ate itself. Local news in the 1980s thrived on one thing: spectacle. And for WNUF Channel 28 in Baltimore, Halloween was the perfect night to push it. The station promoted its Halloween special for weeks, a live, 2-hour event featuring local news anchor Frank Stewart exploring a supposedly haunted house just outside town. Viewers were promised laughs, scares, and live paranormal investigation, all wrapped in cheesy 80s charm. At 8 p.m., the broadcast began. The opening was campy, upbeat, neon graphics, thunder sound effects, canned laughter. Frank introduced the night's guests, 2 local paranormal researchers, Louis and Claire Berger, and a Catholic priest sent to keep things safe. They were broadcasting from the Weber house, the site of a 1973 double murder. Frank grinned into the camera. "It's Halloween night and we're going ghost hunting." At first it was harmless. Fake cobwebs, awkward jokes, static-filled sound bites from the supposed spirits. But 30 minutes in, the tone shifted. The live audio crackled. Someone off camera whispered, "Do you hear that?" Then came a noise and a long, low moan echoing through the house. The priest looked off screen. The camera shook, and Frank laughed it off. "Perfect timing!" Before cutting to commercial. When the broadcast returned, the set was darker. Frank's jokes were forced, and the background crew, the sound techs, the camera operator, were gone. He mentioned some interference with our power, but the feed flickered. Behind him, something moved at the end of the hallway. At 9:12 p.m., one of the guests screamed. The camera turned, catching a blur of motion, someone running, dragging wires, then static. When the feed came back, it wasn't WNUF's control room. It was a single shaky camera shot inside the Weber house. No announcers, no laughter track, just the sound of someone breathing, close to the microphone. Footsteps, a door slamming. Then, silence. The station cut the broadcast immediately, replacing it with a rerun of the Brady Bunch. No statement was made that night, or the next. But within days, rumors exploded that the footage had shown real violence, that one of the guests had vanished, that the Weber house itself had been torn down the following week. Police records from that weekend show multiple 911 calls from the area, all within a 15-minute window, all reporting screaming on TV. But the location listed for the Weber house no longer existed by Monday. Satellite imagery from the same coordinates showed only an empty field. WNUF never aired another Halloween special. The tape was supposedly confiscated for investigation and then lost. When the network was bought out in 1992, the archives were moved, and all Halloween programming was destroyed. Only fragments survived, circulating years later on VHS among horror collectors. Every version is slightly different. Some end mid-scream, others cut off in static, and one shows a brief frame of something standing behind Frank as he tall, thin figure with its face blurred like overexposed film. Audio experts claim the final seconds contain reversed speech layered under the static. When played backward, it sounds like, "Turn off the camera." To this day, no one knows whether the events were staged or if the entire thing was a failed hoax. The surviving station staff insist the special was just television, but the families of 2 crew members, the sound operator and the camera assistant, filed missing person reports that were never resolved. The FCC records still list the show as unauthorized content interruption. No master tape has ever been found. Just dozens of copies, each slightly worse than the last, as if the story itself is being recorded over bit by whatever was trying to get out that night. The WNUF Halloween special aired once. Then it disappeared. And maybe that was the point, because some broadcasts aren't meant to be watched. They're meant to find you. And 5 years later, in Oregon, another local station's feed would be hijacked, not by ghosts, but by someone very real. The Channel 12 lost tape, When the News Went Wrong. Halloween night 1992. At 11 p.m., Channel 12 KRCW began its nightly news broadcast, local headlines, election updates, a light-hearted segment about Halloween safety. It was the kind of comfort television small cities relied on, the kind that made the world feel predictable. At 11:22 p.m., that predictability ended. The anchor, Janet Morris, was midway through a sentence, "Authorities are reminding parents," when the feed cut. The picture went dark for less than a second, then flickered to a new image. It wasn't a commercial or another program. It was home video. Viewers described the scene as a dimly lit basement, concrete walls, a folding chair, and a figure standing behind it. The figure wore what looked like a plastic Halloween mask, its mouth wide open in a fixed grin. No movement, no sound. Then, after 10 seconds, the camera tilted slightly, as if whoever held it was shaking. Next came a low hum, not mechanical, not digital, more like a voice, too slow to form words. The camera panned right, showing a wall covered in children's drawings taped to the concrete. Every drawing was the same, a black circle surrounded by stick figures holding hands. The final shot zoomed in on the circle until the screen turned black. Then, suddenly, the Channel 12 logo appeared again. Janet Morris was gone. The backup anchor, pale and visibly shaken, said only, "We seem to be having technical difficulties." Then she read the weather report, hands trembling. The entire interruption lasted 94 seconds. No one knew where the footage came from. By midnight, the station pulled the broadcast and replaced it with reruns, but the damage was done. More than 30,000 viewers had seen the cut live, and many had recorded it on VHS. Within 24 hours, copies began circulating around Portland under the nickname the Channel 12 tape. Police asked residents to turn over their recordings. Most complied. Others refused, saying their tapes had already erased themselves. The investigation revealed something impossible. The inserted footage wasn't on any of the master tapes or satellite feeds. It appeared only on the live transmission signal, and not all at once. Different viewers saw slightly different versions. Some swore they heard whispering. Others said the mask was smiling wider each time they replayed it. Technicians examined the recovered footage frame by frame. One analyst noticed something faint in the background, a reflection in the concrete wall, showing a calendar pinned beside the chair. The date circled in red, October 31st, 1977. Exactly 15 years earlier, the night of the Oyster Bay disappearance in New York. When investigators returned to the site listed on the signal trace, an abandoned cable relay station outside Portland, they found the building empty. The basement floor was covered in dust, except for one clean rectangle about the size of a folding chair. 2 years later, an anonymous package arrived at the KRCW offices. Inside, a VHS tape labeled 12 in black marker. The first 30 seconds matched the broadcast interruption exactly. Then came new footage, the same basement, but the chair was gone. The camera panned slowly until it reached the wall, where one of the children's drawings had been replaced by a newspaper clipping. Local teens still missing. Oyster Bay, NY, 1977. The tape ended with a single frame of white text. "We're not done yet." Police traced the tape's postmark to an automated sorting center. No fingerprints, no sender. The package was destroyed after the FCC classified it as possible threat material. To this day, no one has been charged. The original cut has never resurfaced. The only surviving frame, the mask's open grin, remains archived under digital forensics, flagged unidentifiable image. For months after the incident, Portland residents reported television interference around midnight on Halloween, quick bursts of static, half a frame of movement. Some said it was coincidence. Others said the broadcast was still trying to finish what it started. The case file ends with one chilling line, written in the margin by a technician. "It's not hijacking the signal, it is the signal." And 9 years later in Tennessee, the sound would return, not on television, but on the airwaves. The radio silence of 103.5 FM, the station that answered back. Halloween night, 2001. Most of America was still on edge, airports under new security, the air full of paranoia and silence. But in Knoxville, Tennessee, a small local station called WZRB 103.5 FM decided to go on with its annual tradition, a live Halloween broadcast called Midnight Stories. For 10 years, the program had aired campfire tales, listener call-ins, and spooky sound effects. That night, it was supposed to be comfort through fear. At exactly 11:57 p.m., the host, David Hale, opened the show. His voice was calm, warm, the kind that filled empty rooms. He began with a story about a haunted farmhouse outside Oak Ridge. Listeners say he paused mid-sentence. One then asked, "Are you hearing that too?" The next second, the broadcast changed. The signal crackled, the music faded out. Then came a faint static, rhythmic, almost musical. At first it sounded like Morse code, but the pattern didn't match any known transmission. The sound rose and fell in perfect intervals. 8 seconds of tone, 2 seconds of silence. After about a minute, a voice broke through. It wasn't David, it wasn't anyone. It spoke slowly, low, distorted by static. "Hello, David." Listeners called the station immediately, but the line was dead. For the next 5 minutes, the broadcast continued, a strange mix of noise, fragments of speech, and short bursts of what sounded like laughter reversed. The words were hard to make out, but one phrase repeated over and over. "Can you hear us?" At 12:06 a.m., the tone stopped. The station went silent. Then David's voice returned, trembling. "I'm not sure what that was, folks. We're taking a quick break." The broadcast cut to a commercial jingle. When it came back, Midnight Stories was gone, replaced by generic country music. WZRB stayed on automation for the next 72 hours. When staff arrived the next morning, they found the studio empty. David Hale's chair was overturned. The microphone was still live, recording a low hiss. The station's emergency generator had activated itself at 12:07 a.m., 1 minute after the voice stopped. The recording of that night was sent to the FCC. They found no sign of outside interference. No frequencies near 103.5 were active in the area, no pirate signals. But when engineers tried to analyze the sound file, the spectrum showed something they'd never seen, a waveform shaped like a heartbeat. The case was dismissed as equipment malfunction, but David Hale never returned to radio. He moved out of Tennessee weeks later. His final statement to the local paper was one sentence: "I don't broadcast anymore. I listen." Months later, technicians running routine signal tests picked up faint whispers around 103.5 FM, always near midnight, always on October 31st. The voices repeated the same question: "Can you hear us?" Then silence. Audio experts who studied the residual file noted something strange. When you slow down the static to half speed, a second voice becomes audible, overlapping the first. A child's voice, it says clearly. "He said yes." The broadcast logs for WZRB that night list no transmission after 12:06 a.m., and yet dozens of listeners recorded the feed continuing until 12:11, 5 extra minutes no one can account for. Today the station still exists under a new name. Every October they pre-record their Halloween segment. No live mics, no calls, but engineers claim that no matter what file they load into the system, when the clock hits 11:57 p.m., the program resets to the same title card, Midnight Stories. No one at the station talks about it, but those who've tuned in at the right moment say the first thing you hear is the same tone from 2001, 8 seconds on, 2 seconds off. Then a voice whispering through the static, "Hello, David," and after that only silence. But decades before the airwaves went quiet, another Halloween broadcast vanished for a different reason, one that haunted an entire generation of children. The children's show that never ended, Smile Time. Long before cable and streaming, children in the Midwest grew up with local television, hosts in costume, cardboard sets, jingles written on xylophones. In Des Moines, the most beloved of these was Smile Time. It aired weekday afternoons on Channel 5 KDSM, featuring a gentleman in suspenders known as Mr. Wally, who taught lessons about kindness, sharing, and courage. Every Halloween, he'd do a special spooky episode. The last one aired on October 31st, 1979. The episode began like all the others: bright colors, laughter, puppets waving to the camera. The theme song, "Smile When You're Scared It Means You're Brave," played over the opening shot. Then something unusual happened. Mr. Wally didn't smile. He looked into the camera for a long moment and said softly, "Do you know what happens when the lights go out in the studio?" The screen flickered. Viewers thought it was a glitch. Then the puppets began to whisper. Not scripted dialogue, actual whispering, off mic, overlapping like rustling paper. Mr. Wally turned to them, frowning. He asked, "Who's talking?" The audio warped. A low hum filled the background. Not music, not static, just a vibration that made the air heavy. Mr. Wally laughed awkwardly, telling children at home, "Sometimes friends get shy in the dark." Then the lights dimmed. The camera panned across the set, showing the smiling cardboard moon and the painted stars. Behind them, someone was standing, tall, still, no costume, no face. The feed cut for 3 seconds. When it returned, Mr. Wally was gone. The puppets hung limp. The set lights flickered red. Then the screen faded to black. At first, parents assumed it was a broadcast failure, but the show never returned. Channel 5 ended its feed early that night, playing reruns until morning. The next day, station management announced that Mr. Wally had suffered a medical emergency on set. The episode was never re-aired, and all future Halloween specials were cancelled. Weeks later, local newspapers printed a small obituary. Walter Elkins, beloved children's host, passed away unexpectedly, but no cause of death was listed. When reporters requested footage of his final show, KDSM said the tape had been damaged during recording. The master reel was stored in the archives and later destroyed in a 1985 fire, or so they claimed. In 1996, a former technician cleaning out the old studio basement found a dusty film reel labeled "Smile Time, October 31st, 1979. It was still sealed. He brought it home, cleaned it, and threaded it into his projector. He never finished the playback. According to his wife's statement, she found him sitting in the dark, staring at the flickering wall. The film had melted in the reel. All she could make out was a single frame burned into the end, a man's face, pale, eyes wide, mouth half open, not smiling. The words scrawled beneath it, "Keep watching." Since then, 3 other copies have surfaced online, all slightly different. In one, you can hear children laughing in the background, though no children were ever on set. In another, Mr. Wally's voice returns at the end, whispering, "I'm still here." Media historians dismiss the legend as urban folklore, but several Des Moines residents, all now in their 50s, swear they saw the broadcast live. They remember the same thing, the screen fading to red and a man's voice, quiet and calm, saying, "Don't change the channel." Channel 5 never produced another children's program. The studio was sold, then demolished in the late 1980s. But locals say that when you tune an analog TV between channels on Halloween night, you can still catch a flash of color, a red moon, a smiling puppet, and the sound of a man whispering from somewhere too close to the microphone, "Smile when you're scared," and then nothing. But decades later, in the digital age, another broadcast would vanish in real time, one streamed, not televised, and this time, the world was watching. The streaming that vanished in real time, the last live. The Night of Masks had moved online. Thousands of creators were live streaming parties, makeup tutorials, haunted house tours. Among them was Dylan Reeves, 24, a film student at the University of Texas, known for urban exploration videos. His channel, Reeves Field, had over 400,000 followers, most of them drawn to his fearless habit of sneaking into abandoned places. That night's stream was titled Live, Exploring the Haunted Broadcast Station. The building was real, an abandoned relay hub west of Austin, used decades earlier for television signals. Dylan had teased it for weeks, the place where a station died. At 9:47 p.m. he went live. The chat filled instantly. More than 30,000 viewers watched as he entered the facility, flashlights shaking over broken consoles and graffiti. The air hissed with dust and feedback. Somewhere deep in the dark, a red standby light still blinked. For the first half hour, it was typical content. Nervous laughter, echoing footsteps, jokes about ghosts. Then at 10:19 p.m., the sound changed. A low frequency bled through the mic, distorting Dylan's voice. The live chat exploded. "What is that sound?" He stopped walking, the camera focusing on an old monitor still plugged into the wall. The screen flashed once, then again. Words appeared in white static text. "Hello, Dylan." The audience thought it was staged. ARG marketing, special effects. But Dylan's reaction wasn't performance. He backed away, whispering, "I didn't type that." The text changed. "Do you hear us?" Then the stream lagged. Viewers saw the frame freeze, Dylan's face mid-blink, while the audio kept running. The sound that followed wasn't his voice. It was breathing, slow, steady, right next to the microphone. At 10:23 p.m., the feed cut. The chat timer kept counting. 30 seconds later, it came back. Dylan was gone. The camera was on the floor, angled upward. In the corner of the frame, a shadow moved across the wall, is long, thin, stretching against the flicker of a dying screen. Then the words appeared again. "Signal received." The stream ended itself. No outro, no connection lost, just the YouTube page collapsing into a gray error box. "This video is unavailable." Viewers assumed it was a stunt, until the channel disappeared. Not deleted, gone. Search results, archives, mirrors, erased. Even cached versions of Reeves Field returned 404 errors. Hours later, fans noticed something stranger. Their replay notifications for Dylan's past videos now showed distorted thumbnails. In each one, the same red light glowed faintly in the background. 2 days later, Austin police found Dylan's car parked a mile from the relay station. The trunk was empty except for his camera bag, and a small analog TV turned on but showing nothing but static. The word "live" pulsed faintly in the corner of the screen. YouTube issued a brief statement calling it a data anomaly. But the metadata of the original stream tells another story. When forensic analysts extracted the code, they found that the upload ID, the long string of numbers tied to every video, had been replaced by a single phrase, "Hello, Dylan." No one has seen him since. The building was demolished in 2020, yet every October 31st around the same time the stream ended, a handful of users report a notification that shouldn't exist. Reeves Field is live. When they click, they get a black screen. For 7 seconds, there's nothing but breathing. Then a voice whispers, digitally warped but unmistakable, "Do you hear us?" And just before the feed cuts, the chat counter flickers from 0 to 1. Someone's watching. 6 broadcasts, 6 signals that slipped through the static, each one meant to entertain, until something started listening back. Maybe they were hoaxes, maybe interference, or maybe they were echoes, trapped voices searching for a way through the air. Every Halloween, millions of signals fill the night sky. We scroll, we stream, we watch. But no one ever asks what's watching us back. They say nothing truly disappears from the internet, but these did. And maybe that's mercy. If you made it this far, thank you. Leave a like if one of these transmissions stayed with you. Tell us which broadcast haunted you most, and which one you'd dare to tune into again. But remember, if the screen ever goes black and you still hear breathing, don't adjust your signal. It already found you.